Hi, we had somebody ask about installing a remote line, so I thought we'd answer that with a video. First thing first, we're using a Ninja 13 cubic inch compressed air tank, a Ninja coil remote, and a Tippmann Kronos paintball gun here. Which tank, which remote, and which gun really don't matter at this point. I'll just show you the basics of how this works. So this is the Ninja tank. This is a compressed air tank. Whether you have compressed air or CO2 like this tank here, it doesn't matter. The valving at the top, how the pins work and get depressed, it's the same thing. So I'm just using this Ninja 13 CI tank just because of its size. Makes it easy to shoot in a video. The remote typically consists of two parts. You've got your remote line and then your ASA adapter. This adapter, you'll notice, looks a whole lot like the valve on the top of your tank. This is what will screw into the bottom of the gun. You want to screw that in all the way until you get a good seal. It'll bottom out there. Okay, so the remote line is going to let you go from your tank through the remote and into your gun. Most remotes, including this one, have an on-off. Now how that works is in the top of your valve there's a pin, and that pin, like a bicycle tire or a car tire, has to be depressed for this valve to open up. So this on-off valve has a knob that screws down, up and down. When you screw it down, there's an inside pin that pushes against this pin, opening it up. Now if I screw this on right now and open this up, this hose is going to go flinging around all sorts of crazy because air is going to vent out. There is, on this particular remote, there is no check valve, there is no on-off. This is just a quick disconnect. So you want to make sure you know exactly what type of remote you're using, just to be safe. So this has no check valve. This would be considered the one you have to be the most cautious about, because if you have your air on, this hose will go flying. So first thing, let's hook our remote to the gun. We already installed the ASA adapter. Once again, this is just a quick disconnect. Pull this ring back on the outside. It fits on the gun. You want to make sure that you have a good connection here. This should swivel easily. There's an O-ring seal down inside here that's sealing on the outside of this quick disconnect. And that collar should snap back into place, so you know that's on. You've got a good seal. It rotates. And now we're going to connect to the tank. Before you do this, you want to make sure that this knob is screwed all the way out, that your pin is not pushing towards the tank. And it's not, it's out. And I'll just screw my tank in. Now normally when you screw onto a gun at this point, there's a pin in your ASA, and that pin doesn't move, so as you screw the tank on, you're opening the tank up. And let's go ahead and show that real fast here. So as you screw this tank on, cock my gun, you're going to hear, hopefully hear, this gas up. Well, it was pretty quiet, but that is active now. And then when you unscrew it, I usually take off a few threads and then shoot it out. That vents the excess air down the gun, and then you can unscrew it the rest of the way. That'll save the O-rings at the top of your tank. So that's typically what you would do. That fixed pin there depresses the pin in the tank. In the case of a remote, we're not using that pin in the ASA to open it. Good connection, swivels. We're using the pin in here to open it. Alright, so knob is open, remote's connected, pin is not towards the bottle. Screw this on. This is not turning on the tank at this point because this pin is not depressed. So now we've got a good connection. We are ready to turn on the air. Again, cock the gun. And this is probably the trickiest part, but the easiest part. As we screw this down, and I'm just this is just finger loose right now, very loose. I can rotate the knob back and forth. And I'm going to feel that stop. What that is that's that pin has gone down and now it's resting against the pin in the tank. And I'm just going to do another little turn and we should hear the gun gas up, gas on the remote line. There it goes. I don't know if you saw it, the hose also firmed up a little bit. So we heard the air fill up the hose and the gun, and I know that because I can test it. It is active. What I want to do is go a quarter turn more. Quarter to a half a turn. Half a turn would be fine. And that's because of how this pin here and this valve fit together. You do not want to crank this all the way down. You want to wait, you want to get it to where it's just resting on there and then half a turn more, and I'll go over that more in a little bit. So now the gun's active. Oh, I unscrewed it too far. Gun's active, and that's it. To remove the hose, we do everything in reverse. You unscrew this, which turns off the valve, but you still have air in your line. You could disconnect it here right now. All that air will vent quickly out of here. That O-ring seal that's in there will probably get blown out. You'll have to replace it. It's kind of awkward, makes a big loud noise, scares the people around you. So what you really want to do at this point is vent the gas in this line. Easiest way to do that, make sure you don't have any paint in your gun. You're just shooting it out the front. And what that does is that vents everything out the gun. So now this line is empty. This valve is off. We've vented out the gun. This quick disconnect easily comes off. Now if you notice, I still have the hose attached, the remote attached to the gun. If I screwed this down, this would start whipping all over the place. So you got to be careful there. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my tank. And you could do that in either order. Typically, I don't like to connect my tank until this is attached. But the most important thing is remembering that you don't want to turn on the tank while this is loose. So that's a kind of a quick look at how a remote line connects and disconnects. What I wanted to show you earlier in a little bit more detail is about how far to turn this knob on. So remember how this works. There's a pin valve in here and you screw that down and that presses against the pin in this tank. Now these are typically, not on all remotes, but typically this is a large pin that presses down in here. And if you press just a little bit, this valve opens up. And pardon my hand gestures here, but this is the best way to do it. So typically you have a valve that is closed, and when you press down on this pin, it presses down and you now see there's a air gap there, and if you don't press on it, that seals up. So that's what's going on. That's how the pin valve works here, is you press that open and air can get through, and then when you don't have it pressed down, it seals up. Now what happens with the remote is if you press that pin down using a remote like this, you can press that pin so far down that the pin from your remote line actually plugs up that hole. So there's a sweet spot. So your pin valve is sealed, and you press it open and you've got good airflow through here. Okay, plenty of airflow. But if you screw it down too far, it seals back off and you're restricting that airflow. So what will happen is you'll screw your tank in, and again, I think this pin has been better designed so it doesn't happen. But you'll screw your tank in, turn on your remote, and everything's fine. Or so you think. But if you've screwed this too far down, well, this Ninja remote has a well-designed pin inside here, so it actually can't happen on this Ninja remote. If you screw it all the way down, you're still fine. But on some older remotes or other brands of remotes, if you screw it all down, it'll pinch off that airflow, and it'll actually sound like you're out of air or that you don't have your tank on, and you'll be really confused because you just went and got a fill, you just hooked up, you screwed your tank on, and you think everything's fine. And it is, you've just got this screwed in too far. So Ninja has solved this by redesigning the pin in there so it doesn't do that. Other manufacturers haven't, or on older remotes. So typically how we do it is we very lightly screw it on until you feel it touching that pin, and then half a turn and you're good to go. So that was a really long-winded way to show you how to do that. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. Thank you.